6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey guys, and welcome back. I told you I'd be back with part two of this show, and I want you guys to get yourselves ready because we got a really good show for you today. This is the second part of the greatest deception ever told to the whole world, especially to the Christian community, and the danger that it proposes. Last couple of days ago, we talked about, you saw how these converted Jews over in Israel, how they are not really the sons and daughters of Abraham, but they are actually the descendants of Japheth, one of Noah's sons, and they are direct descendants of Gomer, Japheth's grandson, and how in Jesus' time we talked about how there were lots of converts there. And the thing about Jesus' time in Jerusalem, the Romans wanted to put together a system much like the one we have in the United States today, where it's actually we're modeled after that old Roman tradition and system. Our government is sort of modeled after that. And the dream of the Romans was to have a mixed society of all peoples, where all peoples could come and take part and become citizens and enjoy freedom. That was Rome's dream. So at the time, that's why you have to say all roads lead to Rome, because at the time Rome was trying to bring the whole world together in sort of a one world state or one world order. So at that time, during Jesus' time in Jerusalem, Jerusalem was full of different peoples, all kinds of people. And a lot of those people became converts to Judaism and took on the religion. But not only did they take on Judaism, but they mixed Judaism with their own religion and their own laws and their own rules. And this is why Jesus said that you do make of non effect the commandments and teachings of God for your own traditions and your own teachings. So they had made up their own rules and teachings, and a lot of those rules and teachings and doctrine that was traditional for them, you find in their book, the Talmud. You'll find that in that book. And that's the book that Jesus was so adamantly against. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. If you did not see part one, I would strongly advise that you see it. Remember to like, share, subscribe, make comments, and so we can share the information. All right? All right, let's go.
The reconstituted state of Israel come from Eastern Europe are not descendants of the Judeans or the lost tribes of Israel, but rather descendants of the Khazars. Who were they? They were a nation most people do not even know of. He writes, the so-called self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe in modern history cannot legitimately point to a single ancient ancestor who ever set.
And let me just make one thing clear as well. The Khazars are also descendants of Japheth. They are your Russians, your Ukrainians, your Germans, all coming out of Eastern Europe. And Khazaria was one of the biggest places, one of the biggest states at that time. So let's just, I want to just make that clear.
Even a foot on the soil of Palestine in the era of Bible history. Research also revealed that the so-called or self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe were never Semites, are not Semites now, nor can they ever be regarded as Semites at any future time by any stretch of the imagination. What secret, mysterious power has been able for countless generations to keep the origin and the history of the Khazars and the Khazar kingdom out of the history textbooks? Did you ever learn about it at school? I never learned about it.
The story you are about to hear represents a missing piece in the puzzle of modern history. Without this knowledge, many contemporary events are simply beyond understanding. You are about to hear a man tell you that the major tax-exempt foundations of this land, since at least 1945, have been operating to promote a hidden agenda. And that agenda has nothing to do with the surface appearance of charity, good works, or philanthropy. This man will tell you that the real objectives include the creation of a worldwide collectivist state, including the Soviet Union, which is to be ruled from behind the scenes by those same interests which now control the tax-exempt foundations. The man who tells this story is none other than Mr. Norman Dodd, who in 1954 was the staff director of the Congressional Special Committee to investigate tax-exempt foundations, sometimes referred to as the Reese Committee, in recognition of its chairman, Congressman Carroll Reese. The interview you are about to see was conducted by me in 1982. I had no immediate use for the material at that time, but I realized that Mr. Dodd's story was of extreme importance, and since he was advanced in age and not in good health, I simply wanted to capture his recollections on videotape while he was still with us.
Finally, of course, the war is over. At that time, their interest shifts over to preventing what they call a reversion of life in the United States to what it was prior to 1914, when World War I broke out. And they arrive at that point, they come to the conclusion that to prevent a reversion, we must control education in the United States. And they realize that that's a pretty big task. So it's, to them, it is too big for them alone, so they approach the Rockefeller Foundation with the suggestion that that portion of education which could be considered domestic be handled by the Rockefeller Foundation, and that portion which is international should be handled by the endowment. And they then decide that the key to the success of these two operations lay in an alteration of the teaching of American history. So they approach 4 of the then most prominent teachers of American history in the country, people like Charles and Mary Bird, and their suggestion to them is, will they alter the manner in which they present this subject, and they get turned down flat. So they then decide that it is necessary for them to do, as they say, build our own stable of historians. And then they approach the Guggenheim Foundation, which specializes in fellowships, and say, when we find young men in the process of studying for doctorates in the field of American history, and we feel that they are the right caliber, will you grant them fellowships on our say-so? And the answer is yes. So under that condition, eventually they assemble 20. And they take this 20 potential teachers of American history to London, and there they're briefed into what is expected of them when, as and if they secure appointments in keeping with the doctorates they will have earned. And that group of 20 historians ultimately becomes the nucleus of the American Historical Association.
How do you see that the purpose and direction of the major foundations has changed over the years to the present? What is it today?
Whole 100% behind meeting the cost of education such as it is presented through the schools and colleges of the United States on the subject of our history has proven our original ideas to be no longer practical. The future belongs to a collectivistic concept, and there's just no disagreement on this.
Why do the foundations generously support communist causes in the United States?
Well, because to them, what communism represents a means of developing what we call a monopoly. That is, the organization, we'll say, of large-scale industry into an administrable unit.
Do they think that they will be one of the administrators?
They will be the beneficiaries of it, yes.
When I show you what I'm about to show you, your mind will be blown. You're going to be blindsided. Every single Israeli prime minister has a fake name. Did you know that? I was just talking about Ben Gurion. Do you know what his original name is? It's Grun. G-R-U-E-N. He changed it to make it sound more Jewish and sound more Middle Eastern. Do you know what Netanyahu's real name is? It's not Netanyahu, it's Milkovsky. I swear to God, go and look it up. You'll find Milkovsky.
Not Jewish at all. Not Middle Eastern. Turks. Turkish, Ukrainian, Russian, German, Polish.
That's his real name. These are, remember what Israelis are. Israelis are European Jews. They don't come from Palestine, but they want you to make you believe. They want to make believe and make you believe that they come from this area, that they are indigenous to the land, that they're so Jewish, right? Even though they have no connection. So they changed their names. Here's another one. Moshe Sharat. His name is Chertok originally. You've got Levi Eshkol. Eshkol was Shklonik. So he changed it from Shklonik to Eshkol. Then you have Yigal Alon. His original name, Peikovitz. Golda Meir, Israel's first female prime minister. Her real name is not Golda Meir. It's Mabovich. Mabovich. More like mad bitch. We have Yitzhak Rabin, right? His name is not Rabin. It's Rubitsov. Are you seeing the pattern? These are Eastern European names. Not Palestinian, not Jewish, not Middle Eastern. They're Eastern European, okay? They're not Palestinian. They don't come from this region. Yitzhak Shamir. He's a great one. You know, Yitzhak Shamir, he's on the wanted poster because he was wanted by the British police in Palestine for terrorism. But they don't tell you that. So Yitzhak Shamir, his original name is Yezernitsky. Yezernitsky. Shimon Peres, Persky. Netanyahu, I already told you, Malikovsky. I think I said Milkovsky, excuse me, it's Malikovsky. Never, you know, it's the same point. Ehud Barak is Brog. So B-R-O-G. Brog, he changed it to Barak. Ariel Sharon. His original name is Shinerman. Shinerman. He changed it to Sharon. And Yair Lapid, who's, you still see him changing posts, his original name is Lampel. So he changed it from Lampel to Lapid. Ain't it lovely? Ain't it lovely? You know, it's like, I know half of you didn't know this. I guarantee half of you at least didn't know this stuff. I guarantee you. Because no matter how much you know about the Zionists, you will always discover new things about them, about how they obfuscate, how they lie, how they cheat their way into taking the land, right? By hook or by crook. They're going to do anything they can. And they think that this is a way to, you know, pull the wool over our eyes and make us think that, you know, they belong to the region or something. Like we can't look at their faces and see, well, you look particularly different to the people that are indigenous to the land. Do you not? I mean, again, you can have all sorts of people in the Levant. You know, you can have gingers and a pale white. It's not about that, but we know that every single Israeli government has always been headed by, and the cabinet has been filled by people who are Ashkenazi. They're not Semites. They don't come from the region. They're Eastern Europeans. They're Jews from Europe. They just don't come from this region. I don't know when they converted or whatever, but the point is that they don't come from the region. And even if they did, like let's say you're a Zionist. Let's say you actually believe, yes, this is the land of the Jews. These people are not Jewish. They are not Jewish in the sense that you think they are. They have adopted a religion from the Middle East. That doesn't mean they are the original Hebrews or people that lived there 3,000 years ago. Ironically, if you're looking for the people that lived there 3,000 years ago, guess what? They're still there. They're called Palestinians. Maybe today some of them are Christian. Maybe some of them are Muslim. But they are the original people of this land. And you're killing them and butchering them. So what does that make you? Right? Not to mention the fact, this is why we call Arabs and Palestinians Semites, because they're Semites. They come from this region. So, you know, these people are not Semites. The Israelis are not Semites, and they are butchering actual Semites and then calling the real Semites anti-Semitic. I mean, what is that? They're such frauds. They even changed the names to make themselves appear more Semitic. That's how fraudulent they are. That's how criminal they are.
The devil,
shame on them,
comes and pretends to be an angel of light.
What a wanker. When I show you...
Israel has a fascism problem.
נכון, אני לא יכולה לומר, אני באמת יכולה לומר לעצמי שיש בי משהו פשיסטי, כאילו...
It is hurting not just the thousands of Palestinians killed, wounded, or displaced under the occupation, but also the Jewish people Israel claims to be protecting. Zionism is built upon the idea of a Jewish homeland. But in that Jewish homeland, not all Jews are equal. The founders of Zionism, like Theodor Herzl, and Israel's early state builders, were all Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazim are white European Jews hailing from Eastern and Central Europe and the former Russian Empire. Herzl wrote a famous novel.
Theodor Herzl's famous book Alt Neuland, or Old New Land, which envisioned the modern state of Israel years before its creation.
The book also talked about Israel as small Europe in the Middle East. But not all Jews are Ashkenazim, and not all Ashkenazim are Zionists.
All the rabbis around the world for 130 years since Zionism started spoke up in every way, in every style that they had, and declared that Zionism is sinful, is a criminal, and is totally unacceptable according to my religion.
That's Rabbi Yisrael David Weiss. He is one of the many anti-Zionist Jews around the world. In fact, prior to the Holocaust and the founding of the State of Israel, Zionism was a fringe minority movement among the world's Jewry. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, as survivors and Zionists started to emigrate to Palestine, there was an immense need for manpower to build and populate this new formation. In 1911, David Ben-Gurion, who would later become Israel's first prime minister, went on record saying, "We need people who are born workers. We have to pay attention to the local element, the Oriental Jews, both the Yemenite and Sephardic. Their standard of living and their needs are lower." So to get builders and soldiers and not be overwhelmed demographically by Palestinians, the Zionist project was an urgent need of Jewish immigration. According to Professor Aziza Kazum, European colonialists would often treat local minorities and Muslim lands, like Jews and Armenians, as allies and reward them for their cooperation against local authorities. This led to increased tensions between communities. Moreover, the creation of Israel by way of a mass ethnic cleansing and displacement of 750,000 Palestinians increased tensions that already existed. All these tensions led some Arab Jews to migrate, but the number of Jews relocating to Israel wasn't enough for the Zionist Ashkenazi state builders. To accelerate the process, Zionist spies planted bombs in Jewish centers in Iraq to create hysteria and panic in order to hasten Jewish Iraqis to flee Iraq and emigrate to Israel. Israeli Jewish historian Avi Shleim, whose family emigrated to Israel from Iraq when he was 5, told Middle East Eye.
It was part of what somebody described as cruel Zionism. And this was particularly cruel because it involved innocent Jews, decent Jews, good people, and the Zionist movement or the intelligence officers turned these Jews in Baghdad and then later in Cairo. They turned them into terrorists. They turned them into spies and terrorists against their own homeland.
Over the decades, a combination of push and pull factors eventually led many Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews to emigrate to the State of Israel. But they were less than welcomed.
The Jewish community in Iraq had very little to do with Zionism. Zionism was a movement by European Jews for European Jews. And my mother used to talk a great deal about the wonderful Muslim friends that we had in Baghdad. And one day I asked her, did we have any Zionist friends? And she said, no, Zionism is an Ashkenazi thing. It's nothing to do with us. And I think that reflected the predominant view of Iraqi Jews.
And a white savior story was constructed about how Middle Eastern Jews were saved from savage Muslims as well as the savagery within themselves. The discrimination against non-white Jews is a well-documented phenomenon in many sectors of life in Israel, including in education, reproductive rights, the military, and others. One of these shocking stories was accusations against the Israeli government of eugenic practices. Families claimed that officials had coerced Ethiopian Jewish women to take contraceptive drugs with long-lasting effects. Critics said it could explain the almost 50% decline over the past 10 years in the birth rate of Israel's Ethiopian community. Ethiopians were not alone in their grievances. The Israeli government is accused of separating Yemenite Jews from their children when the families immigrated to Israel decades ago. The officials told parents their children had died, but did not provide any evidence or the bodies of the deceased. Journalists and the families of the victims later discovered that in some cases, the children had been experimented upon in hospitals, while alive as well as after they died, in violation of Jewish tradition, and some others had been given up for adoption or even sold to white Ashkenazi Holocaust survivors. Many non-white Jewish communities from Iraq, Yemen, Ethiopia, and other places around the world have long been a victim of the Zionist racial hierarchy. Israeli academic of Iraqi origin Ella Shobat writes, "I am not asking Palestinians to feel sorry for the Sephardi soldiers who might be among those shooting at them. What is at stake in any case is not a competition for sympathy, but a search for alternative." These words, written in 1988, are still relevant today. What do you think? Is Zionism a white supremacist project?
This is it. Let me give you one piece of advice. Be honest. He knows more than you can imagine.
At last. Welcome, Neo. As you no doubt have guessed, I am Morpheus.
It's an honor to meet you.
No. The honor is mine. Please, come, sit. I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Do you believe in fate, Neo?
No,
Why not?
because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life.
I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me. Hey, Pac, are we online? Almost. Time is always against us. Please, take a seat there.
You did all this?
The pill you took is part of a trace program. It's designed to disrupt your input-output carrier signal so we can pinpoint your location.
What does that mean?
It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Did you?
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
This can't
be. Be what? Be real?
It's going into replication.
Hey, Pac.
Still nothing.
Let's go. Let's go. Tank, we're going to need a signal soon.
Got a fibrillation.
APOC, location.
Targeting almost there.
He's going into arrest.
Lock, I got him.
Now, Tank, now. Welcome to the real world.
And who got the money? Hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank or that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's discount.
Tell us who they are.
No.
A World Bank to destroy the economy of this country and to bring in global governance.
So who got the money? To financial institutions in Europe and other countries. Which ones? I don't know.
$500 billion and you don't know who got the money?
Now, the first of a two-part conversation with former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan.
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
I'm not about to give up control.
The basic problem is that we are living in a virtual reality. We're living in a totally controlled environment, an environment that has been created by mass media. Now, many people, especially young people, accept unquestioningly the reality that is presented by the media. Popular culture, movies, television, music, carry messages about how society works and how people should behave. And so entertainment is not value-free. It has ideological content. It presents a worldview that influences the people who watch the programming.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
A new world order can be created.
Huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role.
Right now, Israeli parliamentarians are considering a law that will require prospective Israeli citizens to declare loyalty to Israel as a Jewish democratic state. Their mission? To prevent Arab men mixing with local Jewish girls.
It's important to safeguard our traditions, culture, history, and identity, because without this, who are we?
We're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. In time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural.
Let me give you one piece of advice. Be honest. He knows more than you can imagine.
At last. Welcome, Neo. As you no doubt have guessed, I am Morpheus.
It's an honor to meet you.
No. The honor is mine. Please, come, sit. I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 2 of this show. And as you can see, these are the players. These are the players in the New World Order. These are the ones bringing it about. The ones that are in control right now. These are them. Showing you who they are. Not just Israel, but a lot of European politicians. We need to know and be aware of who our enemies, who the enemies are. The Bible says we should not be ignorant of the devil's devices. And we should not be ignorant of the people who are trying to destroy democracy on this planet and bring in a one world order, a one world dictatorship. The Bible says that when that happens, it causes Jacob's trouble. A time of trouble, disaster, such as never been seen before, a time of the end. So let's keep watching. Let's stay aware and awake. And let's stay prayerful for the things coming on the face of the earth. Well, that's it for me. This is Elder James signing off right now. Like, share, subscribe. Stay in touch for my next video. It will be coming to you soon. Until then, I love you. Jesus loves you more. And God bless.